Food is not our enemy.
It really isn't.
Even carbs aren't your enemy.
3 women, 1 group chat, 0 chill. Shannon, calm until she's not.
Off when I need to.
LV, if rage baking was a person.
Fuck off, Betty Crocker.
Stacy, where charm meets consequences.
Did your mama let you go out like that?
The A Collective starts now.
All right, friends, welcome in and welcome to another episode of the A Collective. And can I tell y'all, I'm super excited. I am Shannon today, and friends, we have a special guest, but joining me first are...
I'm Stacy today as well. Shannon said she's Shannon today. I thought she was Shannon every day, but...
I never know how this is going to play out.
Can I be someone else today?
Yeah.
However you want to be, sis.
Can I be Mia? I'm going to be
Sure.
Mia.
She'll love that.
Just kidding. I know.
So we can call me Stacy, a.k.a. Cardi B.
Oh, she's super excited about Cardi B. All right. But y'all, I dropped hints today and the people were mad with me in my live because I said, we're taping today and we have somebody special from the GLP-1 TikTok community joining us. And people were like, who is it? Who is it? They were like, we don't like your hints. And I was like, well, you'll have to wait for teasers next week to see who it is. And I was like, it's a she. But I'm super excited to have her. Joining us today is Dr. Catherine Toomer.
Hey.
Welcome in, Dr. Toomer.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Yes, we love you, love you, love you. So I discovered Dr. Toomer on TikTok. I think that's where we all kind of found her. She is not only a doctor practitioner, and her specialty is weight care. She is the CEO of Your Light Wellness and Weight Care, which provides telehealth services specializing in weight care, GLP-1 medication across the country. And so I'm super excited to have her. She is also on a GLP-1 as well. So she has lots of not only medical and practitioner knowledge, she's got a ton of just user knowledge because she's on one as well. So let's get at it.
All right.
Where do we want to start?
Well, could I start by just adding a little bit?
Add it all.
Ultimately, I'm the founder and CEO of Total Weight Care Institute. And part of Total Weight Care Institute, one aspect of it is patient care. The other part is patient education. And then the third part is physician education to make sure that patients have people who are compassionate and who know what they're doing. So that's the 3 prongs of my overall.
I love that so much because when I started, my PCP recommended it because she knew I'd been doing all the things, right? And so she was like, you know what? That bound just got approved because this would have been January of 2024. So it had been approved, in December, I think the month before, end of November. And she was like, why don't we put you on it? And I was like, my dad takes Mounjaro. Okay, cool. But then when my insurance didn't cover it, I looked into compound, telehealth, stuff like that. And she actually thought it was a great idea because she was like, I don't know much beyond the basics. So that is amazing because I need to send my doctor information.
Well, I mean, I've been prescribing GLP-1s for 15 years. Back when we only had Byetta and Victoza.
And most people don't realize, Dr. Toomer, that GLP-1 medication has been around that long. They think the only GLP-1s that have ever existed are like Ozempic and Mounjaro, and they don't realize this class of medication has been well studied and that it's been around for that long. It
came out in 2005. I remember, I was already in practice when they came out.
So how did you find out about them?
So the way I found out is I treat diabetics. So, and I didn't like insulin. Insulin is actually rather toxic and it causes just as many problems as it fixes. And so when there was another injectable, I wanted to find out more about it. I noticed the endocrinologists that my patients were seeing were starting to use this injectable that I thought was insulin at first. And then, so I asked them about it, studied it, and realized that this was a really good medication to get my patients off of insulin. So that was the first year. And then I have congestive heart failure from pregnancy. And my ejection fraction, which is what we measure to see how well you're doing, started dropping. My cardiologist put me on Victoza because he said we found that people with diabetes who have congestive heart failure do better when on this new medication. So I was put on it to preserve my heart function. But my diabetes suddenly was well controlled, and I started losing weight. I noticed all my diabetic patients were losing weight as well. And so I said, well, if it corrects for metabolic disease and affords weight loss, why can't we use it for all people who are having issues with losing weight who also have metabolic disease? So I was using it off label before Saxenda came out.
And look, and insurance was fine with it. There was no insurance pushback.
Because they didn't know any better. All I had to say was metabolic syndrome. And they were like, fine. Pre-diabetes, fine. Polycystic ovary syndrome, fine. And it was only later that I started using it in metabolic disease, like for menopause, because a lot of people think menopause is a hormonal disease, which it is, but it leads to metabolic issues. And the issues that we have, the symptoms that we have in menopause are actually caused by glucose dysregulation. So when you treat with a low dose GLP, no matter someone's BMI, no matter whatever, it automatically reverses the symptoms of menopause.
Still get hot flashes.
Well, because the hot flashes have to do with there's a thermometer center in your brain that it works on, but progesterone is what stops that. And so progesterone still has to be replaced. So hormone replacement still has to go along with it.
Yeah. Well, I'm on HRT. I just need to get it adjusted. I'm full hysterectomy and bilateral oophorectomy.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And so, and also it depends on the number of years you've gone without it. That depends on how long it takes to kind of catch up.
I'm calling it now. You have to come back. So LV and I are both in menopause.
Okay.
Stacy, bless her heart, is not. I'm calling it now. You have to come back and talk to us about menopause, because I think it is such an under talked about topic, and a lot of women are out here struggling. Our mothers, I'm Gen X. This wasn't something your mama talked about. I just knew that I might get hot flashes. I might. Yeah. I didn't know all the other things that go along with it. And I think this is a conversation specifically about menopause. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Because we're dealing with hormonal things that our parents didn't have to.
Okay.
Environmental hormonal disruptors.
And I've noticed, I don't know if anybody's noticed, Weight Watchers, Queen Latifah, she not only is talking about Weight Watchers is treating menopause, but if you watch the whole commercial, it says like HRT and GLP-1. So that totally tracks back to what you just said, and that they go hand in hand. They go together.
Yeah. I mean, some of us have known this for years, and other people are just catching up. The problem is, we don't have the big machine behind us to let people know we were doing this a long time ago. But, who cares? As long as people are getting what they need, I don't care who does it. I would rather, well, let's not get into my politics of Weight Watchers.
I mean, you're here with us. We can talk about anything.
Well, see, the thing is, I just don't like the exploitative nature of a lot of these programs. It's like these bandwagon programs.
That's it. On the bandwagon. They jumped on the
and jumping on the bandwagon using physicians that they're just hiring basically off the street. They're halfway training and they still don't know what they're doing, but they're and then they're exploiting those doctors' intellectual property. The ones who really know what they're doing are being exploited, and the ones who don't know what they're doing are getting benefits that they shouldn't be getting. So it's really it's a false sense of security being given to patients, because the idea is if you're someone with credentials and you're working for a company that's well known and well respected by some, then you're getting good care. And half the time I end up with those patients. I can't tell you how many patients I was on Weight Watchers for years, or I was on this for years, or I was taking this compound med for years. And I'm just like, but it's not the medicine. It's who's prescribing it that matters, and how well they're monitoring, and and it's not necessarily prescribing it for the basics. The basics, as long as everything's going fine, it's fine. The problem is you need to know when it's not going fine, and you need to know what to do when it's not going fine, and you need to be able to protect your patients when it's not going fine. And that's the problem. You get people who are heading down a road of danger, and it's not recognized until it's too late.
Because I personally feel like, and Dr. Toomer, you can chime in on this, because of the popularity and, dare I say, explosive nature of these meds coming on the scene, and just how the number of scripts have just gone up and up and up for them, whether it's to treat diabetes or to treat obesity, doctors are not prepared. I don't know how many times we see on TikTok, we hear on TikTok, people are like, the doctor prescribed this. I went and picked it up. What do I do with it? They told me to take it once a week. What do I do with it? So my question to you about that, to kind of expound on that, is you said part of your approach is physician education. How are you helping physicians be better patient care providers around these medications?
All right. Well, first, I want to say when someone says their doctor, it is not always an MD or a DO. It's sort of like a blanket term that everybody uses for anybody who prescribes to them. So a lot of the times it could be a nurse practitioner or PA, and I have nothing against nurse practitioners and PAs. I worked with some really good ones, but our level of education and expertise are totally different. So we get blamed for a lot of the mistakes that other people who are lesser educated make often. That's not to say we don't make them, because there's a lot of ignorance even within the medical community and physicians and DOs. So the way I educate people is to make them understand that treating obesity, first of all, for the first part of my course, I have a course. First part of my course is physician bias. Check your bias. And I have tests. This is a patient with this. This is a patient with that. Which one of these just needs a medication? Which one? This is a patient who looks like this. This is a patient who looks like that. Which one of these people need to be treated? Which one of these patients need to be worked up? If you said one or the other, you need to check your bias, because both of them need to be evaluated. Both of them need to be assessed. And so so that's the first part of the course, is just making sure people recognize that they have bias, and then recognizing that that is affecting how they treat patients. And then I give a story about mistakes I made early in my career as well, and how there are patients I should go back and apologize to because of how I handle certain situations, because at the time I just didn't know any better. And so what I do is I have a course, and it's in 4 sections. The first section is patient bias also, physician bias, and then patient assessment. The second part is all about really understanding the whole patient. Biopsychosocial, not just the biology. We can test for labs, we can do all of that, but it's the psychosocial stuff. It's the damage that has been done over years. It is the shaming and the blaming that we have to counter. And if you don't create a certain level of rapport and trust with your patients, you're not doing them any service. So that has to be addressed. And then the third part is the actual medication and making sure you prescribe it safely. What to look for, what not to look for, who it's safe for, who it's not safe for, what to do in various situations, how not to just phone it in. You've got to make sure that at each phase of the titration, that person is being reassessed and it's safe for them. And then so I create algorithms around that. And then the fourth part, because unless we give people a way of making money doing it, they're not going to. And so I have a revenue generating section that helps physicians actually make a living doing this, so they can focus all on this and not have to supplement doing other things, so it waters down their patient care when it comes to weight care. And so it is unfortunately a very lucrative way of treatment, and unfortunately you don't have to be good at it to make money at it. And so what my course is to make sure I kind of tap into the insecurities, which all of us have. Doctors we're the most insecure of people. So I tap into that insecurity to try and get people to then understand. And one of the things I have learned in my business is, like, you do a bait and switch. It's always that. So I do weight management because I want to get at people's health. If I don't say wait, nobody comes to see me. Okay. If I say, I'm going to help you get healthy, they're like, thank you. But if I say, I'm going to help you lose weight, sign me up. But you can't help people lose weight unless you go after their health issues.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so so I do the same thing with physicians. You want to make some money? All right, guess what? I'm going to hit your bias too, and I'm going to hit your knowledge too.
Love it.
That's dangling the carrot.
Yeah. So it's just, but it is what it is. That's the world we live in. Either you got to make people feel good and be thin with one currency, or you got to help them make money with another. And that's just what I do.
Do you think it'll ever change, though, where the carrot that you dangle for patients can be want to get healthy as opposed to want to lose weight?
There are people who really want to be healthy. They'll say, I'm here because my doctor said I'm pre-diabetic. I'm like, what? Diabetes runs in my family. I lost my grandmother to diabetes, whatever. And so, yes, that's a concern. And then, interestingly enough, when they start losing weight, they're like, oh, wait a minute. So often what happens with those people is that they start to sabotage their progress because they don't want to lose weight. They don't want to look a certain way. So they start sabotaging. And I keep telling them, we're not treating your weight. We're treating your metabolic issues, and let your body go where it goes. Because if somebody there was a problem for me. I liked my curves. I really, really liked myself about 30 pounds heavier than I am right now. But my A1C doesn't like it. And so I had to focus on my A1C and then just check myself when it came to my size. I really don't like my size. And anyone who has dealt with obesity and dealt with overweight hates to hear that. It's like, come on. It's like those people. It's like, I'm so pretty. I don't want to be pretty. I hate being pretty. That's like, it sounds like that kind of, and it's obnoxious. So you don't say it too often, but there is a real problem. That's a place where self-sabotage sits. And so it has to be addressed. I happen to know it firsthand. I used to always lose weight, then gain it back because I'd get attention. I hated it. So I'd gain it back. But then it got to the point where my heart started failing. My A1C was at 9. I had no choice. And so I had to learn to accept the new body I had to live in because otherwise my health was going to suffer. And nobody talks about that very much. They just like, what do you mean? You're thin. That's what you always wanted. There's still psychosocial issues you got to deal with when you get there. Or don't get there because people are trying to get thin. And thin is relative anyway. You're thin here in the United States is very different than is emaciated in other places. And so thin in other places would be considered overweight here. So it's very culturally connected and it's very much based around a lot of prejudice and not just social prejudice. Well, it is social prejudice, although now we call it political, but it's social. And so different cultures, different communities have different ideas of what thinness is and the value it holds. And so, but not addressing that leaves a person vulnerable to manipulation, to undertreatment, to overtreatment, and to so many pitfalls. And so it's just, that's my soapbox. So get me off.
I'm enjoying your soapbox.
Well, I'm going to tap into that because you think about in the Black community, like if you start losing too much weight, honey, people are talking about you and you are getting healthy. Baby, is she on crack? Have you seen Stacey? Her head is big. Is she on dope? Like, what's going on with her? And then they'll tell you don't need to lose any more weight. No, I'm trying to be healthy. It's a reason for this. And so I know that, Shannon, I think we've talked about that before. We may have all talked about it. Yeah. But in the Black community, it is definitely something. And it's like, Lord, I'm going to watch and see if she eats. She on that.
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's so funny because Shannon, you were actually because I just had my 60th birthday party.
Oh, yes. Happy belated.
Thank you. And Shannon was there. But this is the thing. There were a lot of people there who have not seen me in 40 years. There are a lot of people there who had never met me in person. And they just knew me from my social media activities. There were a lot of family members who hadn't seen me in years. And so all night I kept hearing, oh my gosh, you're so tiny. And it just like, I had to shore myself up every time I heard it, because to me, what I heard was, you're little, you're too small, you're insignificant, you can't hold your space. I had to keep in my head saying, let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. It's not personal. Don't take it personally. Has nothing to do. And some people thought they were complimenting me and they just don't know my struggles. So they didn't realize hearing that was hard.
Yeah. I think that's another like set of conversations that need to be had around, around weight loss, because it really can be a head trip. I heard this weekend that, oh my God, how much more are you going to lose? Because I was like, I'm not done yet. I still have another 30-ish to lose. Oh, you don't need to lose anymore. You had to remind people, to your point, I'm chasing healthy. I definitely need to lose some more because I need to get some of this pressure, continue to get this pressure off my knees, my hips, and I need my diabetes to continue to lower a bit more, just so I feel like I'm better and I'm more controlled. Yeah. Also, people don't see that. They just see the weight loss.
Sis, don't pretend just because the good doctor is here that you're not chasing a 4T.
I think she does want to have an outfit that snaps between the legs. I think that's what it is.
This is the thing. Then there's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with that. That's the other thing. That's the other part of it. We've been taught that if you want to look a certain way, you must be vain. Yeah. You can't have society telling you something's valuable and then tell other people you can't want that value. It's like saying, money buys whatever you want, but don't try to be wealthy. That's essentially what we're saying. It's just that socially, it's easier to shame people when it's around weight. Nobody shames entrepreneurs for trying to make money. Why do they want money? For wealth. What does that wealth give them? Social capital. Well, so does thinness. So does youth. So does race. Absolutely. So do certain, skin tones, hair texture, whatever. Denying that is just somebody being delusional and, willfully ignorant. And so you can't have it both ways. Tell people one thing's important and then tell them not to want it. And it's okay. You just can't make it the most important thing, but it still can be important.
one of the people who was like, you don't need to lose any more weight. And yeah,
How did you do it?
I said, did you not see? I said, did you not see my Instagram post this week? And she was like, I said, did you not see and hear that post? I said, I posted, what's your goal weight? To be a problem, to be a whole problem. I want to be a problem. I said, oh, yeah, listen, I'm not done. Well, technically, I want to be a 2T.
Oh, that's right. I'm the 4T.
Oh, well, I don't know what I am.
We were making a joke because I did so I've lost 120 pounds. I've never been below like 200 and probably 10, 15, not really sure, because the lowest I ever got was after I discovered that my now ex-husband and father of my child is a predator. But that was the lowest I've ever been in my entire, like, since high school. And now, you know, I'm 155 pounds. Like, I wear a size 6 or an 8. I don't have a booty because I am a white girl who does also understand her privilege. And I want to say, like, our conversations, you know, amongst the waspy country clubbers, you know, it's a little different because I mean, they all know exactly how I'm doing it, but it's, you know, it's oh girl, you look so good. But it's uncomfortable for me because I've always liked to be behind the scenes. And so it's just, I get very, like, I told my sisters here, Memorial Day, there's a big carnival thing because Memorial Day was founded where I live. And this woman was like, my God, you're so skinny, like screamed it. And I was like, I need to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want all evening to be like this. So it's very uncomfortable when you've lived your entire life in like a larger body and suddenly you're in this small body and you're still trying to figure out how and what and why it hurts to sleep on your side because your knees suddenly, like, it's bone on bone, like, you know, all these things, like, you're trying to figure this all out and then you have people screaming in your face about it.
Well, it's the same as so the last time I was this weight, I thought I was fat because I was a teenager. And, you know, a teenager in high school, there's always somebody thinner. So I was always like I was always very athletic and muscular. So you know, so even at this weight in high school, I was still one of the larger people in my group. And so now, of course, at 60 and I'm this size, I'm just like, ooh, you know, it's really, that's why it's not real. It's all relative and it's just not real. And so the thing you have to do is just shut out the noise. You just shut it out and not, and, you know, there's things you measure and there's some metrics that matter and others that don't. People's comments are one of those things that don't. And unfortunately, it took me years. It took me turning 60, having a 95-year-old mother who looks at me and rolls her eyes when I complain about something. And she's like, really? You care about that? No, not anymore. No, ma'am. And it's like you have someone who, you know, my mother, for example, at 17, put herself through university because her father didn't believe in putting women through college. So she put herself through university at 17 years old in 1947. And I'm telling her about some problem and she's looking at me like, you know, she puts everything into perspective. So I have that benefit. But it's really strange because the other thing she did, though, when I started my program for patients, she asked my sisters to join so that it would be successful. And so my sisters joined, my older sisters joined. I'm one of the youngest of 8 children. So my older sisters joined, expecting just to be like, okay, we're just going to do this for Catherine. Both of them got really healthy. And they're like, oh man, this really works. So one of my sisters was like, I honestly did not think this was, she was like, and now it's like, she's Miss Pilates Queen, she's like, has some, some award for like doing 350 Pilates classes. And she, you know, and she's just like floored. I mean, she's like the poster child of my program because she did everything like she was supposed. And she was just like, but I'm not doing anything. I'm like, that's it. When you do it right, you don't feel it.
Right.
You don't feel it. It should not be a chore. It should not be forefront in your mind. It should just be. And then my older sister, who's 10 years older than I am, the same thing happened. We look at old photos and we're like, whoa, really? Was I really there? And now it feels so natural. I have no photos of when I was at my largest. There's one picture taken, and only because my sister-in-law took it when I wasn't paying attention. Sadly, though, it's the only photo I have of me with my youngest daughter because she was born around the time when I was at my largest, so I never let anyone take pictures. So I have no photos of her with me when she was a baby.
And you consciously
None.
did not take pictures during.
Consciously. And that is one of the reasons why when I work with people, particularly my one-on-one patients, I always ask them about photographs. I always ask them about their children, about their families and their relationships with their families and how they interact with them. What does that mean? So I had one person, for example, who said, you know, she's from another country. And I was like, ooh, I love, and I mentioned some dish from her country. Oh, I can't eat that anymore. Why not? Well, because, you know, I'm trying to lose weight. It's 90% protein. Why are you not eating that? And she was like, I can eat that? Yeah, you can eat that. But it has this in it. So throw this in it and then it's fine. So I spent a lot of time learning how to tell people how they could take their favorite foods and still eat them, because I love food and I think it's something that makes you happy and I'm not giving that up. So I just figured out ways I could eat it without it causing my diabetes to go out of control. And honestly, that's all I did. Can I eat this? Watch my blood sugar. Can't eat that. Maybe. Or if I eat that and I add protein to it, can I still eat it? Yep. Oh, my blood sugar didn't go up. I spent years doing that. So I knew if I want chocolate cake, I'm going to have chocolate cake. And if I want chocolate cake with ice cream, I'm going to have chocolate cake with ice cream.
Absolutely.
But I know exactly what I got to do right before I do that and how much of that chocolate cake I can eat. And so I did that. And so she started cooking her traditional foods again and immediately came back and she was like, oh my gosh, my children are so happy because now my husband doesn't have to go to the local restaurant to pick up our traditional foods anymore because I started cooking them again. This is also the same woman who told me she wasn't having her picture taken. I'm like, what are your children going to look at when they're older? My father-in-law, when he passed away, we had so many pictures of him that we couldn't choose. And I thought, if this were me, there would be whole sections of my life that would be gone.
Same.
And this same woman is now modeling. She's the spokesperson for a accessory company. And she modeled, I mean, like real model, not like Facebook model. No, these are full-blown national commercials.
Wow.
That's amazing.
I have
So not like us,
pictures
Stacey.
from when I was larger.
Nice.
Yeah, but remember, because we talked about this, Stacey was like, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I bet you people used to say, but you're cute.
Yeah.
You have a pretty face. So nobody
I
cared.
got that. You have such pretty eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my trainer and I were talking about it today, and it was just like how my face was just so big. And I am someone with PCOS, and so I was pre-diabetic. Everything was just puffy on me. And so it's like, he said, you look like a totally different person.
Yeah.
Your
But in our
face.
community, though, you'd be pretty regardless.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
I
was.
wasn't really told I was like pretty or I was always told Dr. Toomer, I wasn't heavy as a person in my 20s and then growing up as a child. So I did not spend my whole life obese. Started gaining weight and having all the dysfunction when I stopped birth control.
Yes.
Around 32 and PCOS said, here I am. I've been here all along. The birth control was just holding me back, but here we go. And so that started my whole weight gain and everything. And I can remember during that time, wasn't really told I was pretty a whole lot.
Birth control. Yeah. Birth control held everything together with a piece of tape. And then once it comes off, it's like, oh, hey, girl.
With barely a piece of tape. And the way I kind of tracked it back as I've gotten into the community and really looked at my history, I was a teenager with PCOS. I had horrible, irregular periods that were all over the place. My mother didn't understand because that was not her experience growing up. And I'd be like, oh, it hurts. I got my period again. Can you buy me some more pads and things? And she'd be like, you just had your period 2 weeks ago. What do you mean
You're running through pads.
I mean, this is like 16, 17 years old. So this is way before I even went off to college. Like my body, when it kicked in, it started just, we're going to be irregular. We're never going to get right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've never been one to shy away from the truth of things. And to be honest, I mean, and I know this is going out to mixed company, but colorism is a real thing. And you know that.
It is.
We don't have to get into it, but we know it.
Well, we can get, I mean, we do all the time.
All the time.
Trust me, I'm always like,
You know?
I'm putting in the work.
Because this is the thing. I grew up in East Africa where I grew up in East Africa. So everyone just assumed I was biracial because in East Africa, biracial people look like me. And so but not in the States, nobody, well, maybe some people, but most people don't. So, but there, biracial women have a really bad reputation.
Okay.
And so I was treated one way. I was never told I was pretty. My sister, who was, brown with short hair and a gap between her teeth, everyone's just like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And then they look at me, but you're clever. I was never considered cute, ever. So I just, but what I did, exactly. And so what I did was I studied hard. I'm like, well, if I can't be pretty, I'm going to be smart. I'm going to show you. And I just made sure I was top of my class every year. And that's, and that's basically, and so that it's just weird. So then coming here, all of a sudden, I didn't believe people when they said they thought I was pretty. And I was getting attention that I wasn't used to. So I started gaining weight first in college to stop people from paying attention to me. I'm like, well, if you think I'm cute, I'm going to make sure I'm not cute anymore.
When did you come to the States?
When I was 20 years old. But the problem is I was little then. I started gaining weight and people thought I was cuter because suddenly I got nice and round.
You're thick.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I was like, I can't win for losing.
Yeah.
But then, and I would have probably stayed that way had it not been for my health. People in my family don't do well. My father was the only man in his family to live past 60, many generations. And mainly because my mother just took his health in control. And so he lived to 90, but he was the only, all my uncles, he's the oldest of 9. All of my uncles died before they were 60. His father, grandfather all died before they were 60. And so I knew if I didn't take care of myself, I knew what was going to happen.
I think we've all kind of talked about that too. Just family history. You have to be honest with yourself. Like my dad had a massive heart attack at 45 years old, dropped dead. Wow. So 45, I just made it to 46 this week and thank God for that. But I was like, whoa. And then his mother, my grandmother, was diabetic. She had a lot of amputations. She died pretty young. My mom is diabetic. And in our family, we've had female issues, but nobody talked about them. So like when you start talking to your grandmother or you remember things and it's like everybody on that side of the family had hysterectomies like very early. So we've had something. And I did not know I had PCOS until I knew. And it was bad. So yeah, and then you start seeing the weight with PCOS just start picking up. And then when I got into that pre-diabetic range, it was like, okay, you got to do something about it. And you heard people say, well, are you cheating because you're going on this medicine? Why are you doing this? Well, I'm trying to get healthy.
Yeah, can we have like your clap? I want to know, like I genuinely want to know what your
tell
clap
people.
is.
And that is like the biggest thing that bugs me when people say, oh, but you're cheating. You're going the easy route. And I always tell people, listen, if easy is bad, I want you to walk everywhere and not use your car. I want you to wash your clothes in the river and not use a washing machine. Don't use an iron. Hang your clothes up on a clothesline. Don't use a dryer. I'm just sick of people acting like something easy is wrong. It's called efficiency.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, isn't there that
and people are like, but I did it the natural way. So this is what I say. If you're taking a tea, if you're using a powder, if you're taking anything to help you with your weight, it is assisted weight loss. So all you're saying is, I'm getting from point A to point B, and instead of flying there, I'm going to ride a bike. I'm going to put myself in danger because I don't know what's going to be coming at me on the road. I'm going to get tired before I get there. Not to mention I may get injured because my muscles, my bones, my whatever can't withstand that kind of work. And eventually I'm going to give up. But guess what? Those who flew are there and they're going to stay there.
And so we don't smell when we get there.
Exactly. You're not sweating nasty and all the rest. Exactly. And so my thing is, if it's a short distance, fine. Ride a bike if you want. Yeah. But if you got to go a long distance, that's not going to work.
Yeah. I love a good analogy that because
you're about to use it too, aren't you?
Oh, I'm going to because I've always said like, and I'll credit her because I've always said, we're all driving to the same place, but in different cars. So some of us are going to get there faster than others. And like, it's all about the journey, but we're all going, and we will all get there.
And some people have a shorter different distance to travel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people may start off riding a bike and then they realize, okay, this isn't going to work. So they jump in a car and then they realize, okay, this is still too slow. And so they jump on a plane. Doesn't matter how you get there. That's your choice. But don't
jump on a plane.
Don't insult other people for doing it the way that works best for them.
And you know what I find a lot of, Dr. Toomer, is when people say that, it's people that need to be on a GLP-1, they need to go check themselves, or they don't realize how they look.
Or they're scared. Projection is a real thing. So people will project their fear onto somebody else. And so I don't, when people do that, I don't judge them because I know where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of fear. I mean, and so it's coming either from fear or ignorance or both. And so, and it's hard because you're in a place and at a time when people aren't taught how to be discerning about information, and they're getting a lot of it, and they're getting a lot of false information, and they're getting a lot of information that sounds really real. Oh, it sounds so credible, and it's wrong. Folks are loud and wrong, and it's out there. And then, but their whole thing is, if you notice, doctors don't know. Doctors don't know what they're talking about. They just discredit doctors. So when we chime in, they're like, yeah, but you're a doctor. How do we don't trust.
Yeah, I get here where science is not.
And my thing is this: science doesn't lie, and if it does lie, it's because you didn't learn it. And I'm just going to give an example. I was trying to help people learn how to determine their milligram dose based on their concentration of their compound. I tried, and I did it as simply as I could. But if you don't understand fractions, and you don't understand multiplication of fractions, and you don't understand how to cancel things out that are upper fraction, lower fraction, if you don't know what a denominator and a numerator, I can't help you. So don't get mad at me because you can't understand my explanation, because somebody convinced you that you are never going to need algebra again. I can't help you. And this is the same thing I tell doctors. GLP-1 this, GLP-1s that. Dude, you learned the Krebs cycle in med school. We all had to learn it. Don't tell me that you don't understand what GLP-1s do. What that tells me is that you aren't even looking at your science. You are being willfully ignorant, and you're not even going back to how our body makes energy. Because if you look at how our body makes energy, you know exactly how they work. And then you also understand how NAD is being used, because you can't go through the Krebs cycle, which is what our body uses to make energy in every single cell we've got. It uses all the components from food, from NAD, from water, from oxygen, and it all goes into this cycle. And what gets spit out is energy. And if anybody does not understand that, it's because they're being willfully ignorant. We all had to learn it in med school. Every single one of us. We had to memorize it. So there's no excuse for doctors to say they don't believe in GLP-1s, and you don't believe in having any sense, because that's really just what it means. I mean, when people say I don't believe in GLP-1s, then you don't believe in science. You don't believe in medicine. Leave the profession then. That's like saying you don't believe in keeping people alive.
Yeah. That makes me feel so much better. So I recently had to see a colorectal surgeon. My daughter's head was in the 99th percentile 10 years ago when she came popping out. So went to see this colorectal surgeon at Hershey, because I'm in central Pennsylvania. I said to, because I was scared that, he was going to say, maybe we pause. And I was like, I just got here. And my mom died of heart failure. My dad has congestive heart failure. My dad's on Mounjaro. My mom was diabetic. My dad was pre-diabetic, all these things, like she had dementia, all these things that my dad keeps being like, I'm pretty sure it would fix my car because it's magic. Like he is all about his Mounjaro. But yeah, he asks his doctor, both his cardiologist and his PCP, constantly if they think it'll fix his car.
You'll be able to see better while driving your car.
Right. But so my colorectal, I was a little nervous, and it was the first time I had met him, and he was like, no, I think those things are magic. And I was like, you'd love my dad then, because
yeah, they are.
But, and so I was happy to, and then hearing you say, I'm like, okay, so.
Doctors who have studied it, doctors who know their science. See, this is the thing. Not everyone who goes through med school are problem solvers. Not everyone who goes through med school are just fascinated by how the human body works. And you can tell the difference. People who are fascinated learn everything they can, and they hear anything they don't know, and they start studying it.
Yeah.
And that's just the nature. And that's just really any field. And you always look for those people in any service you're looking for. If it's somebody who, like my husband actually taught me this. Anyone who geeks out over any topic is who he goes to for whatever it is he needs. Whether it's car, whether it's no matter what it is, you want the geeky person who just kind of loses themselves in the information and their lives light up and they look like they're on drugs because they start talking about something. Those are the people you want, because that means they have never stopped learning, and they've never stopped being fascinated, and they've never stopped learning how to apply what they're learning and what it means. And so everything that comes at them, they're like, ooh, I could plug that in here. Wait a minute. So when people ask me questions, what do you think about XYZ? even if I haven't studied it, I have enough information so I can get a pretty good idea of how it might work, even if I don't know exactly how it does.
Well, and like going off all of this, what do you think? Because obviously we've talked about doctors, how they look at them, but like the media, what are your thoughts on how the media
So
promote,
if you look at
speaks to them?
everything across the board, not just GLP-1s, the demise of newspapers led to clickbait. Journalists get paid by clickbait, by the number of clicks. And once we got click for pay, that was it. Our information suddenly became irrelevant because it became sensationalized. GLP-1s were a perfect example of that. Before, when we had newspapers and people would do deep dives into information and they'd look at things but now though, the things that are intellectual, that weigh both sides of the equation, whatever, those are boring. Nobody reads those, or they're biased. That's what people say. So, well, of course you say that GLP-1s are safe. You make money prescribing them. No, I make money saving people's lives using them. There's a difference. I make money by keeping people alive, by treating the causes of their problems. And GLP-1s are pretty good at going to their problems. Not only that, I'm here because of a GLP-1. I should have been dead. I had a 50% chance of living 5 years based on the diagnosis I had for my heart. 1/3 of women die. 1/3 of women may get better on medication. And then another 1/3 have to get heart transplants to stay alive. Those who then don't, go on to live, often some of those can go on and never have a problem again if they don't get pregnant. And then others, like I, am on multiple medications to keep my heart in check.
Yeah.
But it took 5 years before I knew what camp I was going to fall into, because it takes in that 5 years, you don't know until you're 5 years out. And then you don't know as you go along, suddenly your heart can just start failing again. And that's what mine did. It was a GLP-1 that stopped it. And so, when people say, oh, you're 60, oh, great, they don't understand. I actually wrote a chapter for a book, and it was called Living on Borrowed Time. But the borrowed was in parentheses. So it's like living on time, but living on borrowed time. And essentially what it talked about was, if you focus so much on time, you kind of lose the time you've got. And that's what I had to learn, because when you come so close to death and you know that you're not supposed to be here, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be here, because I lost my very first patient I ever lost was a 17-year-old with the exact same diagnosis. So I knew it doesn't matter. This was a diagnosis that does not discriminate. And so, so when people say, well, these medicines, they're this, they're that, they are lifesavers. And there's nothing anybody's going to tell me differently, because I wouldn't be here to tell you if they hadn't worked.
I have a few other things I want to talk about
Go ahead.
too. Menopause being chief, but I definitely love your take on diet culture.
I feel like we just scratched the surface.
People mad. This is the thing. As my mother would say, a hit dog will holler. So when I start talking about eating disorders and talking about diet culture and the toxicity of certain diet cultures and all of the rest, and people get mad, that's my response.
Baby, that's what we do over here in this corner.
A hit dog will holler. If it doesn't,
in this corner of the
why do you
podcast,
care?
Dr. Toomer.
Yeah.
Is that your
perfect timing?
Is that
The dog. It is the white male. It is not the black female. Very on brand.
I'm just saying, as soon as I said a hit dog will holler, it's like he heard dog. Perfect.
That's what I'm saying. He's very on brand.
Couldn't have made it more perfect timing. It's sound effect, but yeah. No, we'll talk about it.
So we have to plan this out.
You can tell like I said, everyone's entitled to my opinion. I'll talk.
Love it.
I don't. You get to a certain age, you don't care. And I always tell people, I'm 60 years old. I don't care. My mother said you were like that when you were 6. Stop lying.
Yeah, I think I'm that way too.
Yeah,
I think so.
So
not 100% sure. I think so.
Well, Dr. Toomer,
yes.
Thank you so much for joining
I
us.
apologize, whoever's going to edit this. I'm sorry.
I am. It's fine.
You can always break it up into 2 episodes.
Yeah, I was thinking we might end up going into 2.
Yeah.
Two-parter.
Amazing.
Yes.
Well, and y'all, if you are not following Dr. Toomer on TikTok, make sure you follow her at Dr. Toomer Talks, TALKS, not like TikTok. You gotta get that right.
That would have been pretty good if I thought about it.
That is clever.
It could always end up in the
reason
back.
I did that was because there was a Dr. Toomer on TikTok who apparently has left their account because, now when I search for Dr. Toomer, I can't find him anymore. So I'm like, why did you do that sooner? So I could have had my name. But it has kind of snowballed into something else. So now I actually have a Tuesday live every Tuesday to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. And I'm trying to add TikTok, but it's a little more convoluted to get on TikTok lives. So if anyone wants to see like my longer videos and my longer explanations, they can go to my YouTube channel and subscribe there. And that's Dr. Toomer.
And then her website is also, if you want to check her out, it is Dr. Toomer.
Yeah. And I do strategy and plan. I used to have a membership and I would have a group, and I still have the group, but I had like a group model and a membership model that was fine as long as I could get people medication through their insurance. Once that stopped, it just became so cost prohibitive to have a membership and have people paying for medicine. So now what I do is with the strategy and plan. It's just like I just create a strategy. I'll go through whatever I have to get their medications, either compounded, or I'll do all the PAs and fights and the appeals. And then once they get their medicine, they can take it back to whoever their primary care is or somebody who has insurance that takes their insurance so that they can continue from there. Or if they can't get anyone to prescribe, then all they have to do is come see me as they need to. So it's not like this monthly charge. They just kind of,
awesome.
Yeah. And so that way it just makes it more accessible to people who need care.
We will have all of the links to all of her social media in the caption. Make sure you subscribe to her YouTube, especially if you're watching on YouTube right now. It's going to be an easy, just little click, walk on over. So make sure you're Make sure you're following Dr. Toomer on YouTube, but follow her everywhere because obviously she's
a wealth of
amazing.
knowledge.
Yeah.
And I do answer questions that people pose after my YouTube videos. It's not a bot. It's not an assistant. I answer them myself.
Ooh, all right then.
Let's go.
Thank you so much again, Dr. Toomer, for joining us. We're looking forward to having you back. But I've enjoyed this. I don't know
I
about
have
you guys.
It's been amazing.
So enjoyed it.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun. Yeah.
Yay. Means you will come back.
I know. We didn't run her off.
Not even me.
5 sisters. It's gonna be a lot for you to run me. I'm 4 older sisters. So and I'm one younger.
Good.
Yeah. So it takes you learn how to navigate,
We're all only children.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, so we're a whole other bear.
When you have siblings, you learn how to be a brat and either duck and hide, or you learn how to be just enough of a brat to get your point across without anybody turning around trying to lock you in a closet.
Yeah, see, we didn't have to worry about the closet. So
you just stay bratty.
Yeah. Which is probably why we all get along so well.
Well, it's interesting. People say I act like an only child, and if not an only child, a middle child, because I'm between the oldest boy and the youngest girl. So I have like a middle child personality.
Oh, yeah.
Yay. All right. You're welcome. And just let me know when this comes out, and I will.
It'll come out next week.
Put it out and share it wherever.
Well,
and do it
next week.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
You made it to the end of this episode of the A Collective.
Hit like, follow, comment, and share it with the group chat.
Otherwise, Stacey might come for you.
Yikes.
I know, so do it.
Thursdays are for chaos and new episodes of the A Collective.
Not the A-list. No.
Nope. I'm gonna get the name right.